Ryoma motioned with his chin towards the clearing from which we came, and we scaled back up the hill.
よし、ここにするかい。
We can make it work. The hill afforded us a vantage point overlooking the Sekisho without fear of immediate detection. For now, I could rest easily, knowing that the bulk of the Furies were down there, which meant their ravenous, watchful eyes were not upon us. Ryoma.
なんだ?
Considering our circumstances, it might have been premature to ask him this question, but... What do you plan on doing once you find Hakuoka?
そりゃ決まっちゅうろ。羅刹を今回の戦には関わらせんようにするがよ。ほんで、これ以上新政府軍の奴らとは関わりを持つなち言うちゃるがよ。歴史言うがはあくまでも生きちゅう人間の手で作っていくものやき。
I held my breath as Ryoma shared his answer with me. That message hadn't applied to Hakuoka alone. My chest tightened, realizing that Ryoma had exempted himself too as a victor. What road lay ahead for Sakamoto-san, I wondered, once the threat of Hakuoka and his furies had ceased. His disdain towards the water of life and the subsequent abuse of its prosperities was something he wasn't afraid to express.
千鶴、どういたが黙り込んだ。
なんでもない。As Ryoma interrupted my stupor, my eyelids fluttered to appear engaged. Do you think Hakuoka would hear you out? The last encounter was hostile, the shattering of a friendship between two lifelong friends. Hakuoka had even gone in so far as to threaten Ryoma with death by mutilation. Thus, the thought of Hakuoka entertaining Ryoma's proposition was suspect, if not dubious, and it made me anxious.
いざとなったら命を捨ててもあいつを止めちゃら。言うても俺はもう心中剣だ。
What? His curt deliverance twisted my stomach into knots. Please don't joke about that. You were saved. You're here.
冗談やないけんど。ちょっと言葉が悪かったね。
A brief silence floated awkwardly between us, until Ryoma offered me a question.
お前の方こそ、行動と再会したらどうするつもりぜよ。あいつこそ、説得に耳を貸すような男やないぜよ。
Well, suddenly I found myself replaying our last interaction at the Fushimi Inari Temple. Fushimi Inari Temple, a temple dedicated to Inari, who is considered the patron of business. It is one of the oldest shrines in the nation. Father was attempting to trick me into joining him, as if I would be coaxed by his beliefs. Was Father no longer the man I once knew? Would I find that, like Hakuoka, he had fallen into a place where I couldn't reach him? If that was the case, I'll do whatever I can. Even so, I have to try and speak with him. There might be some kind of explanation for why he decided to experiment on Furies. Back at Fushimi Inari, I saw Kaoru standing there beside him. Perhaps if we speak privately, he might let me in on whatever convinced him to do this in the first place.
たくおまんは人がええちゅうかなんちゅうか。けんど俺も賛成ぜよ。数年ぶりに再会した親子が殺し合うらってこと 救われんき。
Then Ryoma turned his head upwards, gazing at the patchwork of stars glimmering above us.
俺も中岡とじっくり腰を据えて話し合うてみるかい。あいつは頑固やき、話を聞いてもらうまでが大変そうやけんど。
Ryoma. Silence fell between us once again. A breeze whistled coolly through the pines.
なあ、千鶴。ちと膝を貸してくれんのか。
Borrow my lap? What do you mean?
なんな。お前、男に膝を貸したこともないがか。
Hello. What?
ってあるわけないか。お前、新選組の屯所じゃ男の姿で暮らしよったがやもんや。江戸におった頃、誰かと恋仲になったらってこともなかったろうし。
That's not true. Did too.
おってことはあるがか。どんな男で。
Well, he caught me in a bold lie. Back in Edo, I could likely count the number of men with whom I had conversed on 2 hands.
無理しなや。別にバカにしちゅうわけやないき。俺が一番乗りってことながやろ。他の男にこんな真似させたらいかんぜよ。
Oi! Once Ryoma entered a cocky, self-assured state of mind, there could be no stopping him. He got low to the ground, resting his head comfortably against my lap. Why couldn't you make sense in Yasawuga? Ryoma? It was a threshold I have never before crossed with a man, and all of my hair stood up. Look at her adorable, cute face! I can't. My legs began to lock, tense by the prospect of such an unfamiliar experience. Instead of answering, he smirked, taking pleasure in our eyes as our eyes met each other.
別にうろたえることらないろ。得るもんやないがやき。
A mischievous laugh eked from Ryoma's mouth. He spun my emotions like thread around his fingers and loved every minute of it. Reflections of starlight glowed in his joyful eyes, which sparked enough on their own.
綺麗な星空やにゃ。あの時死んじょったら、こうやって空を見上げることもできんかったき。
Just then, his eyes shifted, sunken by a wistful thought as he pursed his lips. If offered the chance, I believe he would have hovered into the sky to be swallowed amongst the stars.
こうやって空を見上げたら、父さんも江戸も変わらんにゃ。空に半境らないき。けんど人間だけが対面だの意地だのどうでもええことで戦をしゆう。
With Ryoma's words, my mind was thrust back into the chaos of the Battle of Toba Fushimi and the gruesome sight of what we'd seen in Hakone. It was true, in the grand scheme of things, men risk their lives for hollow pursuits.
悪いね。別に新選組の奴らのことを悪う言いたいわけやないけど。
I know. I had never thought to think less of the Shinsengumi for finding honor in the swords over diplomacy, but why were they so dedicated to fighting? Were there other ways to find meaning? The question had crossed my mind too. As I became entranced by philosophical musings, Ryoma suddenly muttered, "What the? Where did that come from?" The suddenness of his comment made my heart skip a beat, and I tried to keep from blushing. Was this another of his attempts to get a rise out of me? There was a hint of sweetness in his words that convinced me otherwise, and he continued.
俺は思うたままを言うただけやき。自分と違う意見にも反発せんと耳を貸せるやつ言うが、世の中そう多くないき。大抵のやつはどうでもええこんまい意見の違いやら、それまでもっちょった考えにこだわって自分言うがをよう曲げんと間違うた道を進み続けるがやき。
そっか。From what I understood, Ryoma was a thread tethered to several prestigious figures. It flattered me to receive the honor of his compliment from a man of his stature. For him to describe me as a special lady was all I could ask for, and I replayed the moment in my mind for a few minutes. Huh. On the other hand, I began to ponder. If Ryoma was as clever as he seemed, and was truly a visionary for our time, it must have been so frustrating for him to communicate his grievances with those who, as he put it, refused to consider other perspectives. Oh no. Ryoma. So in the event that you could, in fact, convince Hakuoki, what would you do from there? His face sank into a forlorn expression as he gave my question some thought. Just then, okay, I knew it was coming, but it actually got me. Holy shit. Only a few times has this game actually make me jump. Our placid silence was shattered by the echo of gunshots from below our peaceful knoll. I think it's coming from somewhere near the Sekisho. Panicked voices rang out from the dimly lit Sekisho, preceding a round of hurried gunshots. Shooting during a wuga should be illegal. Ryoma and I immediately got to our feet. If bullets were doing nothing to deter these intruders from entering, then it must meant... Ryoma whipped his pistol from his holster.
Sekishoに忍び込むがやったらまたとない機会せよ。この機を逃すわけにはいかんき。
I'll go with you. My father might be down there too. Ryoma bit his lip, deliberating on whether or not to let me accompany him.
わかった。ケンド、絶対に俺のそばから離れなや。
I am well aware.
足元暗いき気ぃつけ。足を滑らせたら一巻の終わりやき。
Scattered pebbles rolled beside our scurrying feet as we descended down the narrow trail. A bloody melee was erupting in front of us.
なんだこいつらは！一体どうなっている！
It terrified me, and it became clear that none of these soldiers were prepared to fight the Furies. Waves of bullets were fired in a frenzy, but it was futile as most of the wanton bullets landed against tree trunks instead of their targets. The Furies, however, had no difficulty seeing in the darkness, massacring their enemies in cold blood. I partly covered my eyes at what happened next. Holy shit! The Furies repeatedly impaled their fallen victims, gleaming maniacally as they became drenched in blood. One by one, the entranced Furies began to drink. I moved my hands over my eyes, trying to block the hellish vision from registering. Ryoma! It was something out of a nightmare, and I turned to look back at Ryoma in a sweaty panic.
中岡や行動の姿は見当たらんにゃ。ここにはおらんちゅうことか。ほんなら。
Ryoma gripped his pistol tightly, taking aim at the ravenous Furies feasting upon the dead.
手っ取りばよ。片付けちゃら。
A deafening crack followed his trigger's pull. The bullet whizzed through the head of its target, exploding its brains and skull cavity into gruesome bits. Brain bits.
お前何者だ？我々の宴を邪魔する者は許さない。
Their piercing scarlet eyes shined menacingly, honing in on our location in a matter of moments. Before I could react, all of the Furies pounced on Ryoma. Ryoma! Ryoma deftly rolled on his shoulder, dodging the advancing Furies before unleashing fire upon them. As I braced myself for death, the strikes never came, and I opened to find all of the Furies were dead. Lo and behold, Ryoma had miraculously killed all of them, with impeccable timing, no less. One Imperial soldier survived, huffing on the ground in a thickening puddle of his own. 安心しや。おまんを殺すつもりはないき。けんど、なんぼか質問に答えてもらうぜ。Ryoma's voice assumed a deep bellow as he pressed the barrel of his pistol against the soldier's temple. わかった。まず羅刹ども。さっきの連中は何者な？どこまで知っちゅう？詳しいことは何も聞かされていない。我々はつい先刻、新政府軍側に寝返った小田原藩のものなんだ。
あの羅刹をここに隠すよう指示した奴らがおるが
中岡という男のことか。
そう、そいつの行方を探しゆうがよ。今どこにおる？
確か羅刹を増やしながら江戸に向かうと言っていたが。
どこを通って向かったかわかるかい？
東山道だと聞いている。
東山道言うたら今日から諏訪経由で江戸に向かいゆうちことだ。その先には甲府城もあるはずよ。甲府城言うたら
Mentioned in those research notes we found. Oh boy, back to Kofu. Ah!
そこで羅刹の実験をするつもりいうことだ。見過ごすわけにはいかんにゃ。行くぜよ、千鶴。急いで甲府に向かわんとにゃ。
So we went to Kofu, traveling into the pit of the northwest to thwart the nefarious energy bubbling in the dark corners of our country.